coaching meetings, one-on-ones, team meetings, bonuses, incentives. Like there is nothing that the US team has that you guys don't have.
We're being hired because we want to be part of a company, just not to work for them.
I think when you have that values being lined up, it's easy for the VAs to embrace it and to live on it.
Hello, everybody. So I am joined here today by two very special podcast guests. I think this is probably the first time we've debuted them on the podcast, but since we're talking all about how to hire, onboard, get virtual team members, I thought it would be great to have two of our virtual team members through Cover Desk hop on and say hello. So, Louis, since you have seniority, just hit 7 years, the 7-year anniversary with APP. Do you want to just say hello?
Hi guys, I'm Louis. I'm been with APP, as Kelly mentioned, more than 7 years now. So glad to be here at your podcast.
Awesome. Maybe do you want to tell them what you do for us?
Sure. First I was client concierge, and then a reporting specialist, and then now after that I was a reporting lead, and now I'm a manager right now. So there's growth. It's very much exciting for the past 7 years. A lot of learnings, a lot of things, challenges, and then very much happy where I stand now. And thank you very much for the trust.
Well, then there's Michelle, Michelle has a fun story. So once you say hello, Michelle, to our podcast, let everybody know what you do because you're instrumental in this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hi, my name is Michelle. So I've been with APP since 2021. Originally, I was joined under Cover Desk. So I was hired as a client concierge, but because I moved into different country, which is in Faroe Islands, Kelly gave me an opportunity to still continue working with her. But now I am under marketing, so I'm leading the marketing now. I was actually just listening to the podcast, but now I'm here joining everyone. So basically, I am the one at the back end of every blogs, every podcast. So I was the one uploading them in YouTube, and also I am currently managing a small team wherein we are collaborating, making sure that the brand is on track. And we've been managing the social media platforms of agency performance partners.
Yeah, so two OGs on the team. We have, what is it, 6 in total? 6 virtual team members in total. And then we will be hiring at least one more this summer, possibly 2. We'll see how things go. So basically, I think the biggest question people always have is like, how does this whole thing work? Because I'm sure you had these questions when you're like, wait a second, I'm going to work for a US company that does what? And then vice versa, when we work with insurance agencies, it's just kind of like we talk about the freaking first times. Until you get into something, you don't really know. So maybe, Louis, you can talk a little bit about like, how does it work just from the Cover Desk perspective? And maybe actually I'll start. I'll talk about the hiring and then we can talk about how we all work together when somebody's hired. But basically, from the hiring perspective, I reach out and say, we need a person. And then the Cover Desk recruiting team starts sourcing and doing phone interviews and then says, hey, we have 4 people already. Can you come in at 10 o'clock tomorrow and do a Zoom interview? And I know Michelle just went through this because we were potentially looking for somebody in marketing. You get their resume, you get like a little overview and then a personality profile of them. Then you hop on, and I think that they are really good about asking a lot of questions. So you'll interview everybody, and at the end, the recruiting team will be like, I don't like 2 and 4, but I like 3 and 1. And they're like brutally honest. And if they're like, yeah, this isn't going to work, like they just like end the interview right there. And then the surprising thing I think people don't really understand is, and maybe you guys can fill in some gaps on this. It's not like the US where, okay, we can think about it. We extend an offer. It's like you're on the interviews and do you like them or do you not? We need to make an offer quick. So maybe you guys can share a little bit about the culture of the Philippines and how that is so different, as far as kind of like you do the first interview and then we basically have to hire them very quickly? Is there anything like is that like common nature in the Philippines, I guess is a better question?
Let me answer that question. Yes, everything, the basics of the hiring is done by cover desk. So basically, that's the same thing with everyone. Like in the BPO industry, it's the same thing. There's an initial interview, and then the profiling, and then once the client passed the initial interview, then there's comes the final interview. But for us, it's different because we need to meet the client itself for the final interview. So it's the difference in the BPO perspective. So as a virtual assistant, yeah, we will be facing the client itself. I think I can still remember when I meet you on my final interview. So that's what happened. If you got selected, if you got high profiles with your score in the test, something like that. So you will meet the client itself, and the client will be the one to choose between those that has been selected by the cover desk team. So basically, they are the one doing every hiring stuff, something like that.
Yeah. So basically, you guys have had a lot of interviews before it comes to us. And I think it's a very competitive marketplace too, where people are actively looking for a position. So if you wait too long, it's like Michelle and Lewis have already secured employment somewhere else. So
Mhm.
it's a little different than the US. But then maybe Lewis, you can talk a little bit about the onboarding because you have two team members that have been with us about a year and a half now that went through the nesting period and everything else. So do you mind talking a little bit about that onboarding period?
Sure. But before I can forget, yes, just a note to add with Michelle's insights. The advantage is the difference from a BPO. We're under a BPO, but the big difference is there's a personal touch in a way that we're already building a relationship with the client itself,
Mhm.
not like unlike before we're just facing the human resources person. So I just wanted to highlight that thing. And yes, about your question on the onboarding with, especially with, I'm handling two members of the data team. So on their onboarding, they're experiencing a lot of trainings, especially with basic trainings of the insurance industry, and then they're being tested. If correct me if I'm not sure if it's just 2 weeks of training or at least a month, but all the basics of the insurance industry is being discussed, and then they will be gauged if they can be endorsed to the floor, if they would be if they will pass, if not, they would need to cover this will need to search for another one, and then look for the right person. Basically, cover this will provide what is necessary for the portfolio that the client is asking. They will be having a nesting period, and then after nesting, you'll be formally endorsed, and then you'll be training which client you'll be assigned with about the management systems that the client is been using, and then they'll go from there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of training, and if they work for an insurance agency, it's very extensive, right? There's
Yes. Mm.
quite a bit. In the nesting period, they're in a whole separate office,
Yeah.
and they have extra management, extra help, extra. So understand that first like 90 to 120 days is so critical. And I love it because Cover Desk is also making sure everybody comes in on time, that the technology is working. And at
Mhm.
Cover Desk, you're required to be in the office for the first year. I know these two are not in the office. We made a little decision, I don't know, was it maybe 2 years ago to say, "Hey, we wanted to," knowing we'll have a lot of team members, we wanted to make it so that at the end of the day, they could build their own culture, right? Like, so in the Philippines, it could be just 12 miles, but take 2.5 hours to get 12 miles. So knowing that they can all come together, and I think that the office team does really like that. Like, they have fun, we do a lot of opportunities. These guys can come and visit every so often, but after a year, we allow them to work partially remote. So, gives a little update, but I love the idea that Cover Desk has everybody come in for the first year because there's so much to learn, and
Mhm.
I think learning can sometimes be very lonely.
Right. But to
So,
add to that, Kelly,
yeah.
I just wanted to assure our clients that I'm very much interested, especially with the security. If they are concerned with the security of the data of their data privacy, no worries because it's all are being secured by cover desks. So
Yeah.
we're being monitored. So even though we're working from home, even the
Hmm.
productivity will be secured. So the client will be assured that every cent counts. So your
Yeah.
VA will be very productive because they cannot do anything, or I mean, they can do anything, and then they cannot go on lazy, and then just productivity will not be sufficient. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that.
Well, and this is where I think that the team lead is such a good role to talk about. So I know I value my best friend, Rupert. We call each
Good.
other best friends because when I went out there, him and I became besties. But he's always great because he's like checking in with you guys, seeing if there's
Yeah.
anything you need. If you guys have questions, we run all of our bonuses through him. So we give a
Mhm.
lot of like incentives, and we can maybe even talk about that for a second. But the idea is if somebody's struggling, I can reach out to Ruben and be like, "Hey, are they okay? Like, does everything look good?" And he'll take them aside. Or he also facilitates the annual reviews. He makes sure that all of the parties that we throw are well coordinated.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that maybe you guys could also share a little bit about what you value with a team lead, just because it is a little different when you work for a company. Technically, you guys don't work for us, but in my mind,
Mhm.
you do work for us, but you really don't work for us.
Yeah, so basically, the team lead, which is TL Rupert, on our behalf, aside from the attendance and aside from our payroll, although there is really a payroll team that handles our pay, but he's our go-to person in the cover desk. So basically, he's the one handling our day-to-day support. Like if we have any concerns with our with IT, so he's the one that is backing us up if we need an urgent assistance with anything, whether it is payroll, whether it is in IT or in our devices, all of that stuff. He's actually managing everything. So he's always a one call away for us because he always tries to make sure that everything is addressed properly and under the management of cover desk, of course.
Yeah. I've enjoyed working with him. So I think one thing we can share too is we work really hard at my company, it's not the Coveredis team and the US team. Like we are one team. Like the way that we've structured everything is everything that a US team member would have, our cover desk team has as well. So coaching meetings, one-on-ones, team meetings, bonuses, incentives. Like there is nothing that the US team has that you guys don't have, unless maybe there's something you want to like chat me with, be like, well, we don't have this, but but we really, really try very hard to just say we're one team. It just so happens Michelle lives in Faroe Island, previously in the Philippines, and then Lewis lives in the Philippines. But do you guys have any recommendations for insurance agencies? Maybe on like how to make the virtual assistant work at an agency, or just to really kind of embrace the difference, because it is different. When I first did it, so things Lewis didn't share is Lewis was Cover Desk's third ever hire. So we were all didn't know what we were doing. Like at all. And now what you also don't know is Lewis's wife works for Cover Desk. So,
Right.
and she manages a team. So basically, it's a whole crazy scenario. But I mean, is there anything that you guys can think of that maybe we do that would be good for other agencies to hear, that make your lives easier, better, that, keep kind of fueling the success of this model?
I'll just put it this way. As you mentioned, we did not feel that we're just the Philippines and then the US team. We're very much engaged. We felt that we're part of the whole, not just we're just being hired just to work for a company. We're being hired because we want to be part of a company, just not to work for them. So it's an advantage for us, especially our needs are being addressed. What needs, well, especially with the tools that we need, the trainings that we need. So it's our culture here in APP is a good model, especially with the insurance companies if they want for their VAs to have a long lasting work or a relationship with their VAs. So it's an advantage. It's already a testament that you Michelle and I already been for a lot of years now. So it's already a testament. So if the model works, we're already doing it. So
Yeah.
you build a good culture here. So, just wanted to highlight, if we can share with the other clients that they have a foundation where they can follow the culture. So if the VA already felt the culture, they won't encounter any concerns moving forward. So I think it's an advantage to learn how to engage with each other, especially there's not much of a difference with the culture thing, especially with the Philippines being very much influenced by Americans. So the American culture. So there's just thing in that, just relationship. So on how to engage and very direct. That's why I love working with you, Kelly. We can speak out our minds without hesitating. So I think it's a big thing too.
Yeah, well, and I can say by being there, it was like being in the Caribbean for us, like Caribbean islands. It was like it's hot, it's funky, it's cool, it's like a big city, but everything was in English. Like it was very Americanized to be
Right.
completely for anybody who hasn't been. I just went in February. But Michelle, what do you have to add as we wrap this
Um,
podcast up?
yeah, I think one thing to add is I can remember how we started in APP. We are only four: Nicole, Luis, you, and
Yeah,
I.
yeah, wild. And it
Yeah,
COVID. During COVID.
exactly. And during those times, we don't have like a workflow. We do have, but it's not really polished. But I think one thing that I can give a tip to insurance agencies there is to polish their agency workflow so that they can be able to easily give it to the virtual assistants, and also the values that we have at APP. We have built that APP values that we are actually walking through, like how we can live in potential, which is performance, ownership, time management, and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
and all of that values that we are actually embracing too. I think when you have that values being lined up, it's easy for the VAs to embrace it and to live on it. And that's one thing that I can share because I and Luis, we learned from it. We learned how to prioritize and organize our day. Before we are just doing it in a paper, but now since we learn how to prioritize things, then I can say that we are able to live in our APP values.
Well, that's good. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on here. And we do have our how to hire an insurance VA. And I know Michelle's worked really hard on some of the resources. We have a free download of questions to ask your VA provider. Obviously, we love CoverDesk. Andy Priestman was a client of APP's at Greenway Financial Greenway Insurance, I should say, before he started. And then I got to see from the ground up how the VA model worked. And then I was like, Andy, do you think I could do that too? He was like, why not? And 7 years later, this is where we are. So, but it does not just talk about CoverDesk. It talks about all different VA models from ones where you
Right.
don't maybe meet your team. It's going to a pool to ones that, are in different countries. So don't think it's just one big old plug for CoverDesk. It's just the one that we know and we're most comfortable with. And lots of our clients use lots of different VA companies. So
Right.
I just recommend that you think about it. Insurance, there's a shortage of talent in the US. And I can tell you that my experience has been I've got two of the best managers on the face of the planet that just don't happen to live in the US. So thanks, guys, for being on here. We appreciate
Thank you.
you.
Sure.
And get our process pack on how to hire a VA. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank-
Bye.